This week on the Paint and Paper Hustle, I'm finishing my floors. If you recall in last episode, me and the TIG welder didn't get along so good and it left me with a hole burnt in my floor due to my lack of TIG welding skills. But this week I have it all figured out and I'm finalizing these floors, and then we're moving on to something more exciting, which is the seat belts. The seat belts have been in the back of my mind for a while now. I knew what I wanted to do, but I wasn't 100% sure on how to do them. This week we figured that out, and I'm going to show you the safety features that come with them.
All right, so I want to show you exactly what we ended up coming up with. So this is how it currently is. And what we're using is a 3/4 socket, all right? And it's not turned in any sort of direction. I guess it'd be cool if I knew which way the bolt was. But we're putting that on, and now we're gonna pull the metal down. This is what I come up with, and it's been working absolutely amazing on all these. I'm super freaking happy with this compared to how bummed out I was yesterday and down in the dumps I was. This ended up being freaking exactly like I wanted it. So we're just gonna pull this down tight, and if you watch here in a second, it's gonna stretch the metal over the nut. All right, so that's pretty good. Now what we're gonna do, which I just started doing this on the last two, I just figured this out. The first 5, I didn't do it. I just started welding right here. But now we're gonna take the flat wheel and we're just gonna clean the top off. All right, so all that does is clean it off so that now our sheet metal is pretty close. Now our sheet metal is still lower than the nut because of the how the socket pulls it down, which is perfectly fine. I'd rather the pressure of the seat ride on this nut cert that's bolted to the or welded to the floor and to the cross member than sitting on the sheet metal and squishing sheet metal down. So I'd rather basically go ahead and squish the sheet metal down like this so the nut's sticking up a little bit. I think in factory applications, a lot of times you see the nut sticking up a little bit like that anyway. So now we're gonna take our welder, let's get our helmet and the gloves on, and now we're just gonna literally pop some tack welds with the MIG welder, not the destroy everything TIG welder, and then we're gonna grind it down smooth, and we'll chase it with our tap, and you'll see that this turns out perfect. And that makes an absolute beautiful welded up nut cert basically. Now let's take our grinder, smooth out that donut looking thing, and we're gonna go ahead and hit these others. All right, so now we have a piece that almost looks freaking factory. Now, don't grind my spot welds all the way down because that can lose some strength if you start cutting through the actual sheet metal around it. And also I want to see these spot welds. I'm not gonna like purposely leave them huge, but I'm just gonna knock them down smooth like that. And by the time we get done spraying our sound deadening in here, if you still see, oh, what am I doing? If you still see the spot welds, then that's totally fine with me. When you look underneath the carpet of a real modern car, you can see your spot welds. They're not all smoothed out. I don't really like that, where it's all smoothed out. So most of the other ones, well, and including this one, that MIG welding really did not mess the threads up. I'm kind of laying my weld. Basically, I'm hitting the sheet metal where I grinded it, and it's so thin that it just goes away really fast, and then the MIG that's coming out of the gun sticks to the nut and kind of puddles out to the sheet metal. So it's creating this big, like, kind of fat donut around here that works out perfect. If I could go back and do this over again, what I would do is plasma cut or use a big washer basically, and I would pre-weld a washer to these top sides on the workbench perfectly flat, and then I would weld, you know, it into the cross member. And then when we laid our sheet metal over it, our sheet metal hole would be bigger than this, and we'd have a big thick fat washer or plasma cut piece, whatever, welded to that, and then we could weld our sheet metal to basically that washer. So the top side of this would actually have a little cut all the way around it because we'd weld it from the bottom side, and it would look freaking absolutely phenomenal. If I ever do this again, that's what I'm gonna do. But this is the first time I have ever mounted seats from scratch. I mean, I had to come up with this kind of in my head on how to get these bolted into the floor. And with the race car, we used the factory Comet mounting points, but we built brackets to mount in them seats. Back that tap out, and there is a difference between a tap and a chaser. I am aware of that. Okay. And now what we are left with is a perfect freaking 1/2 by 20 hole that our bolt fits right inside of. And of course we need to clean it all out. There you go. All right, so we're gonna move on to the back seats. Now that we have the front seats where they can bolt in, we're gonna try to finish up some odds and ends in the back seats and move forward. Them odds and ends are the seat belts. That is like the last piece of the puzzle for the seats, and I think I know what we're gonna do. So over here, we have the factory seat belts laid out on the table. Now, with a factory seat belt, all right, you have the airbag part of it. Now, we're not gonna be utilizing the airbag part of it, but what is nice about these seat belts, if you use them, all right, is that they have the locking mechanism in them. So you know when you hit the brakes really hard, they lock up, but then they have the free spool mechanism in them where they're not just gonna be laid all over the seat and look like crap. Like they'll be able to go back just like a normal car seat and just a straight line hang down, just like in a normal car seat in the back of your car. So you might get these out of the junkyard and you might be like, why won't they come undone? I don't understand why they won't come undone. So I'm gonna explain that to you real fast. Now, as you know, if you follow along with the channel, I'm in the collision industry, meaning we do seat belts, we do airbags, and we do all that when we rebuild wrecks. So with a seat belt, there's a little mechanism in there that if the car hits the brakes really hard, or if it rolls over, that it will actually lock up. So if this seat belt is upside down or crooked, or if you're laid in a ditch, it's gonna be locked for your safety so that you can't go anywhere. Now you can unbuckle it and you can get out of the car perfectly fine, but the seat's gonna be locked. As soon as the seat belt gets back on the road, all right, and you have the car back on level ground, all right, and it's easier to do this on the table. Look at that. Now, I remember back in the day when I first picked up a seat belt, it was extremely hard for me to get it to do that because getting the feel for a level seat belt, whether it's like this, up, down, all that, actually takes a little bit of time. And I always don't get it right the first time. Well, there it is again. But if you tilt it, she's locked. If you put it back straight, once that mechanism frees up, you have to sometimes wiggle it a little bit, then it will come undone. So that is the cool thing with using this style factory Volvo seatbelt. Also, if you are obsessed with quality control and you don't like aftermarket cheap parts, then the webbing in this is Volvo. Like this is their safety standards. So your seat belts are literally Volvo safety standards. Now I'm gonna show you here in a second, we have tried our best during this build to hang on to the factory mounting points. I do still have the factory clip mounting points. We will use the factory seatbelt buckles to clip this in. I have that. We can make this. That's what I'm about to do. This one right here, all right, the one that goes down the seat, we've almost lost this one. So there's not a lot of room left at all for this, guys. We're gonna through bolt this thing to the package tray so that your weight is pulling on the whole entire package tray, which is welded into the car and which is also 100% stitch welded across that bar that we have inside of this package tray. If you remember when we did this in here, we've got a bar that runs the whole distance, and that's what we attach the package tray to. So that is basically what the seatbelt is gonna be pulling against. So I feel good about that, enough to put my own kids in it, and I feel good enough about it to be able to sell the car and sleep with myself at night knowing that I'm not putting somebody else in danger over my hack job of a build. Will engage. So if we simulate a very hard break-in where the body is thrown forward, or in a head-on collision or something like that, or accident where everything's jarred, you're gonna notice here that the seatbelt's gonna lock up. So I'm about to show you that. Again, the seatbelt free spools. I'm not gonna change, all right, anything about that. I've got this thing planted firm on the table using the pin in this hole in the table that was already there. All right, so we're firm on the table. So we can do that all day. Now, your seatbelt doesn't go straight forward like this, all right? Your seatbelt is down at an angle across you. So if you go to get an accident, the weight of the seatbelt is gonna be pulling, okay, it's gonna be pulling down in this direction because you're gonna be going forward and down. So as your body goes forward, you're gonna be going towards the ground, all right? So that's the way the momentum pulls. It doesn't pull up or like this necessarily, unless it was the roll and it would already be engaged at that point. So when we yank it, all right, that's when it's tight. When you don't yank it, all right, we can even go down with it. It doesn't lock up, all right? But as soon as you hit that momentum, all right, and you get in an accident, then it locks up. But I really don't see a point in putting harnesses in a vehicle which are not that comfortable at all, and they're not safe if they're not wore correctly. Now, as a racer or somebody like that, you probably know how to wear your harness, but are you necessarily going to put your kids in the back seat or your wife in there and make sure she's strapped in into your cruiser correctly off the harness? Or are you going to have it a little loose where she can move around and be comfortable? Don't lie to me. I know y'all have them harnesses loose when you're cruising, and therefore when you go to wreck that car, it does no good. It's not safe. It's unsafe. Factory seatbelts, that's safe. All right, so to do this, we're literally just gonna take our poster board and use it to make a template. Let's cut it where the correct size. We'll just poke that hole through. It's pretty simple. All the tape is doing is just cleaning up my hole where I pushed that through. It never pushes through into a clean shaped hole, so this just cleans it up and reinforces it for when we go to drill it. Push your hands really hard on it, trick. There we go. Really all this also is going to be for is to figure out the spacing of this pinhole. So the pinhole can be a little hard to find compared to the bolt hole. The bolt, we can just put it up there and we'll just mark it with our long reach nib marker that I showed you in previous videos. I hope y'all jumped on Amazon and got that. If not, for the lazy people that didn't watch all the videos and didn't follow along, I will put that link in the description again because I firmly believe in that marker, and I firmly believe that you need one in your garage for fabricating or a pack of them. So hit the description for that link. Got it linked to you on Amazon so you can get the exact same one. I actually drilled the center seat belt and then completely thought about it, and I was like, the center seat will never ever be rode in. It won't even be capable of being rode in because of the drive shaft tunnel up in there. There won't be no cushion, so no center seat belt. This one, that's my fault. I completely did not think about that. So the other two were in though. Pulled my fuel hose back out because again, that fuel hose in previous video, that's just a radiator hose. So it was just to kind of get the layout. And now we're going to take the radiator hose and we're going to build a stainless hard line that goes down, and then it will connect with rubber fuel hose on both ends. But we moved it out of the way just to get the seat belts in. All right, so I don't want to through bolt this thing because then every single time you would go to do the seat belt, you would have to have somebody inside the trunk to unbolt it, and I don't want that headache. Also want this, like I said, strong a big plate underneath here to really tie all this in. So I'm thinking that we will take a plate, cut some kind of plate real fast, and then weld a bolt to it so that the bolt is sticking up, and then spot weld the plate to this. That way it's basically a stud with a reinforced plate on the backside, and then you just have a nut right here that you screw on to bolt that in, and that's it. You don't need a bolt on the front because in an impact, all the pressure is pulling on the back. That's the reason why even from the manufacturer, they're mounted the same exact way, but there's no bolt ever on the front. It's always just one bolt on the rear because all the force is going to be pulling that way. All right, so to bolt the seat belts down, I'm gonna weld up bolts. I'm gonna use these 2 bolts, but I'll try to use up some of these I already have. It's a mess, I'm sure, as anybody else. His garage looks the same, and then we got random nuts and bolts. But we're trying to move forward towards better organization. When we did the garage remodel, I didn't cover it on the channel, but I did take the time to order a couple of nut cert things from when we did the firewall brakes, you remember? And we needed the M6 10mm nuts. So we organized this where we have all of our nut certs, and we actually have hardware, stainless hardware, that's dedicated towards that. And I don't have nothing for this yet, but I'm working on trying to organize better since I know there's no end in sight on building, and we're going to sell everything that we build. But I'm going to use these 2 for the seat belts, not to get off course, but you remember I showed y'all this little guy off eBay? It's like a no-name brand, I think. Literally, it's nut and bolt thread checker, made in China. So this comes in handy because now I just found that it is 7/16 by 20, and there's quite a few of these on eBay or Amazon. 7/16 by 20 is the size, and so I just looked up some locking 9-line nuts on eBay, and I can get a pack of 25 for like 13 bucks. So that's what we're going to do, and I want to get a nut and bolt bin. We're hoping to change toolboxes Labor Day weekend, but that'll be for another video. But I want to get like a small nut and bolt bin, and buy 25 at a time and kind of build it up. I don't want to buy one of them nut and bolt bins that everything's already made. So we're going to drill a hole right here. I marked it in there, and then we will stick this through, weld it from the back side, order the bolts, and then that will create a stud that the seat belt will bolt to, and then this thick bar will be welded back to that bar that goes behind the seat to really just tie everything together. All right, so now we have our plate welded under the bottom side that has a stud sticking up. So this plate's tied all the way back to this bar. All right, and then it's also sandwiched under the bottom of the package tray. And there we go. So now our seat belt clips in. All right. Works like it should, just like that. Sorry about that camera angle. All right, and we just wait for our bolts to come in the mail, and we'll tighten that that one down. That one looks like it's out just a little bit, but it's all getting covered up. It don't matter. I try to get them as straight as I freaking could. Even use this speed square to make sure I got a 90 off of the package tray. All right, so now we got belts drooped over that work. We need to grab the seatbelt buckles, and we might as well go ahead and finish the job. All right, these are gonna go down here. I guess we should try to see if we can even get some kind of bolt in there. Both of them on both sides are just crazy close, but that's where they're supposed to go. If they won't go there, then we'll just simply move them over into here. And Probably do a stud also, weld a stud in there or something. All right, so we want to sit our seat in here and just look to make sure that where we're doing our cross piece at, that it will fit. Now my upholstery guy has to cut all this out the center so they don't clip in no more because of the center. But we can clearly see that they used to be bolted up here, but if we shift it over here, get you the light, then we got plenty of room. So that's where the bolt used to be, but clearly we can easily go right here like I want to, and that will still come across, and it will only move it that far forward. So it'll still come right here across the lap. All right, so we got our seatbelts in. Huge plus, but of course, again, no nuts, just like up top. So they're on the eBay list to order, but that's it, dude. I'm freaking stoked with the rears, how the seatbelts turned out. I think it's phenomenal. The only thing I could see that it would need is possibly like a seatbelt guide. You know how it has the little thing that the seatbelt goes through so that it doesn't go into your neck so hardcore. The Volvo had one, but I don't remember exactly where it's at. When I look up on Google the S60s, I can see it, but don't remember exactly where it's at. So maybe I'll look on eBay and see if there is one, and possibly, maybe it's something even my upholstery guy could do, is fab in a seatbelt guide. Now what Troy's gonna do with Troy's upholstery and fab when he does the interior is he's gonna have to build something that covers all this up. So we're gonna need about the height of this, all right, which is gonna be pretty much the height of the back of the seat. So he'll have to build some kind of tray, and that's pretty much the height off of here. So all of this will get basically a real thin piece of like MDF board or something to hide all these mechanisms back here. However, on the front seat belts, this is where we're probably gonna have to do what I don't want to do. All right, so flat out, I don't want to put aftermarket like harnesses in the front of this car. I just don't want to do it. I really want normal seat belts, but I don't think we're gonna be able to fit the Volvo ones in there, unfortunately. No matter how much I want to do it, we don't have the meat in the B pillar to be able to actually mount them up high like they need to be, I'm pretty sure. We'll try it. The main piece goes down low, but then you have the swivel piece that goes up high and then it goes over. I'm about to put them in there. We'll see if we can make it work. But the way this thing's laid out, being these seatbelts are out of a 4-door and this is a 2-door, they're also gonna be kind of in the way, which we know that there are 2 doors out there that seatbelts are in the way. You have to kind of crawl through them, but I just don't want to purposely do anything that is going to make the experience of owning the car difficult, if that makes sense. So these are our front seat belts. And do they got pins? No, these are different. Normally with fronts, normally they hang. All right, so normally you have this piece and they hang. Let's see here. This would hang the other way though. I was going to cut the pockets out of the original car, but I didn't. So this will sit in there like that, and then you have normally a push pin, a little plastic push pin in the top to hang it, and then you have the bolt in the bottom. Let's see here. Actually, these would go like this. I can tell by the threads. So they would hang in. They would go in a pocket, plastic push pin in the top more than likely, and then a big thread in the bottom. Because again, no strength in the top. All the weight, if you get in a wreck, comes from the bottom. The seatbelt mechanisms, it's going to work the same way, but this one should stay locked on its side, all right, because these are not designed to lay in the package tray. So this thing, when it goes like this, let's see if I can do it one-handed. I don't know if I'm that good. Oh, there it went. There it went. It went some. But they have to be in an upright position. Now, to put these in here, we don't have the traditional B pillar here to put them in the pocket. And we do have this, though. So we could possibly build them into here. I think that our seat would clear around that. And then you have this piece right here that would thread in up high. So it would thread in up here like this. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of figuring and mocking up to see if we can make this work. All right, so we've got our seat back in its location, and I have my seat belt strapped up to the B pillar right underneath where the grab handle was from the factory, and I've got all the seat belt pulled out. That feels good. Like, it is resting right on my shoulder. Now, my seat can go down or it can go up. Up's probably not the great idea. Probably 1 more inch at the max we could go up, because we are already, like, I can literally touch my head on this piece right here. So not good to be that. This car's definitely got tight. I don't like that, man. It's just like if you hit your head on a roll cage when you're in an accident, man. I really hate how tight this car got with it being sectioned and chopped and channeled, but it is what it is. Like, that's literally just when you chop these and channel these and everything gets smaller and tighter and moves it on you, and that's just how it is, dude. I think that's gonna be it. I really, really do. Now, we did have a dilemma in the previous video on the switches, and I talked about doing the door. I think now I'm really, really thinking about not doing that. I'm thinking we take the switches out of the actual side panel, maybe cut this side panel down and refinish it so that it's in and so it don't touch the door, and that way we don't have the switches down here, and maybe put the switches in our center console. That's going to allow us not to modify the door. It's going to allow the door card to be factory, like the door panel to be factory and look more original, and it's going to save us a bunch of time. Right here, this is not bad at all. I think this is what we're going to roll with. Yeah, I think this is what we're going to roll with. I think it's what we're going to roll with. What do y'all think? Ain't nothing to it but to do it. Let's get some more stuff done. I'm feeling good. All right, so now we have us a template. So basically, instead of chopping our car up and trying to figure out how much room we need for that seatbelt to kind of slip up inside the quarter panel, we did it on poster board. You see I cut it too big, add a little tape. Now I know exactly what I need. All right, so what we've got is we have took and put a nutsert right here. All right, so that's our hanger. That's normally how you hang the seatbelt before you go for the big bolt. Most all modern cars have some kind of hanger mechanism. So all that hanger is just a little 10 millimeter. All right, so put our 10 in. And we're gonna go ahead and start our bottom bolt. So our bottom bolt, this is what, if you get in a wreck, this is what's gonna take the load. So this thing needs to be anchored down. Now, if you recall, back way up when we started this, y'all remember what this plate was for? We put this fat corner iron plate in here because we knew we needed somewhere to do the seat belts. We knew if this car got T-boned this way, we didn't want this wall to collapse. There's a bar right under here, if you recall, that runs all the way from one B pillar to the other B pillar so that the two sides can't squish together. And then we wanted to take a bar from all the way over here up to the other bar with Mike. So we haven't done that yet, but that's what we wanted. That way there's a bar around this too to keep from side impact. I'm very worried about T-bone situations with my kids in the back seat, or anybody I sell the car to with their kids in the back seat. So we try to put safety in wherever we can. Even if you're driving at 30 miles an hour, if you get T-boned at 50 or 55, it's gonna suck. All right, so our 10's in. Now we come down here and we're gonna put our 13 in. Now, one thing that I had to do, I don't know if you called it, is I had to get this item level. So if you remember, I just showed you that it's very important to have these seat belts level. Now this frame of this car is sitting on 2x4s and 4x4s. They're equal. Okay, it's that ride height. So we're doing everything where it's equal left to right. So we took and we just found it with our hands, but we took the level and we leveled this seat belt system. That way it's perfectly level up and down. All right, so that's on. Now it should, unless it needs to be unlocked. Look at that. It works perfect. But if you go to get in a wreck, look at that. So that thing is freaking solid, taking all the beating down here to this freaking, I mean, this is thick. This is like 3/16 at least thick, everything. And it's mounted in there. So your seat belts are just absolutely freaking rock solid. Now, what we got going on up here, all right, we have the rest of our seatbelt. Now I've got to order some flange nuts for this up here because I don't have anything that I can do. Basically, I'm gonna put a little plate in here. I'm gonna drill a hole in the plate and weld the flange nut in. I'll weld all that on the bench and slip it in there and weld the flange nut in there. That way the top of the seatbelt will basically bolt in right up there. So I just got it hanging right now. Now what this little piece for, this little piece is a guide, all right? So it just has little screws, little 8s. And normally what it does is it bolts to the interior like this just to guide the seatbelt so it's not flopping around. We may cut this off. However, for right now, we're just gonna leave it hanging down there because I'm not sure if we will or if we won't. We had to shift this back because you do have the flange here. So we're as far forward as we can get. But of course it's not running parallel with that. Now this should get covered all up with a board and this should run behind an interior panel, or it will run over the face of the interior panel. I'm not 100% sure yet how everything will fall. I imagine that the seat pad will come into here, and then I imagine there will be some kind of armrest or something built back here, real basic, and that will kind of create us a box right here that closes this in. I just don't think I want to mess with it right now because I can't really see exactly where the seat falls. So I don't think I want to build it out of metal. I think it'd be easier to let our upholstery guy build it. He may build it out of like just a foam plug or something that pushes down in there. I don't really know yet. But that's basically that. So I'm super happy where we're at. Compared to last week's video, which was yesterday, the amount of frustration that I had with the TIG welder and just the feeling bogged down with the interior to get the seat belts figured out is a humongous step. All we have to do is cut the other side, the square in the other side. I know exactly what to do with the top. That's like a 20-minute task at that. And then it just bolts up to the seats. You don't have to, on the front, mount the seat belt to the floor anywhere because the seat itself actually carries the clicker, whatever you want to call it, click it or ticket. It carries that. So there's nothing else to modify. It's literally just mount the box in there, mount the piece up top, and that's it. Duplicate what we got on the other side, and that's what I'm gonna do tomorrow. It's 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. It's time to go spend the rest of the evening with the family. And then Friday we will try to, Sunday, we will try to finish up the seat belts on the other side. That way next weekend, all we gotta do is the tops, bolt in the seats, and that's it. I mean, I don't think we even need to worry about the switches right now because they're gonna go somehow, I think, in the center console. So that's kind of my upholstery guy's gig, I think. Smash that like button for me. I'm gonna catch y'all in the next video. Where's that? See her right there.